Hello everyone, it's Annie here from Stamp Anything, and today we are going to do a super fun gatefold accordion mini album. So welcome. These are going to be what you should have received in your kit contents. The first thing you should have received is our latest die to make mini albums. It is a gatefold die, and then these will be your insert pages on the back side. Then you're going to have a little Ziploc baggie that's got your buttons, your little threads, and some die cut little beach tropical images. And then you're going to have a series of this gorgeous, absolutely beautiful double-sided paper to make the inside of your album. And what we're going to end up creating is something like this. So it's a gatefolded album, and you would pop it open. And when you do so, here is your little accordion area. I mean, look at how many pictures and memories this can hold, and it is double-sided. Now, granted, you don't have to do as many squares. You can make it a smaller book, but at the same time, when you shut your gatefold, you can still see I have plenty of room here that I can actually even add more pages. That is up to you. I would start off making a smaller book because once you start adding in your layers, obviously the binder thickness is going to come into play for you for how much it can hold, especially if you're going to start bulking up your pages. But this is the basic of it. And the die cuts that we came in here, and they're very tiny and simple to color. You do not need any crazy coloring skills for these. You don't have to even do shading on them if you don't want to. You could just color them very simply and plainly, and they're still going to look great regardless. So that is pretty much our little mini album we're going to do today. So to start off, what I like to do is I have my die, again, that came in your kit. I cut mine out of watercolor paper. Now you can cut yours out of chipboard. You can cut yours out of just a really thick, heavy cardstock. I decided I didn't want to use chipboard on this only because I thought the dark chipboard with these fun, vibrant summer colors just would have toned it down, and I didn't want that. I wanted to leave it light and airy. But depending on what papers you're using, if you're not doing this kit, but later on down the line, making other kits for different either occasions or birthdays or other things that happened in your life, you don't have to just use white. You can go ahead and use any nice thick paper, which is going to be the base of your book. And then these are your inside die pages. So then I just went ahead and I also cut all of those out in preparation. Now our die does have the score lines already built in for you. So there's no guesswork there on where you're going to be folding and scoring. But let me find my never had anything where you need it. When you need it. Where is my bone folder? Of course, my toolkit I used on another. Okay, pause. We'll be right back. Okay, so you're going to need a bone folder, and then you're going to need some really good liquid glue as well in making this project. So I'm going to actually put this one aside, and we're going to start working on getting and prepping our inner pages. So I am just going to fold over and burnish the tabs on all of my accordion papers, like so. And you want to make sure you burnish them well so that they will lie nice and flat in your book when you start putting it together. Now I believe I cut 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, I cut 8. of these because you have 8 sheets of double-sided paper in 8 designs. So I just thought it would make it really easy without me having to try and pick and choose what papers I wanted to use. Now I'm just going to use them all, so it makes it really easy. Okay, so you're going to take 2 of your inside sheets and you're going to start accordion, folding, gluing them together. So you're going to take one tab and you're going to glue it to the edge of one of your sheets, like so. And I like to use the liquid glue for that because I feel like I get that little bit of extra time, and this one is dried out, hold on. You get that little bit of extra time with the wiggle room to make sure that it's on nice and straight. And they're all gonna line up together because you used the die. You didn't hand cut any of these. And that's what's really great about using a die is you know that they're all gonna be exactly the same size. So I just adhered this tab there, and then I'm just gonna make sure to go over and burnish it on the tab on the inside and then on the out. So now you need to make your next one, and now your next tab is going to go on the opposite side because you want to start making that zigzag accordion folding of these items. So you're going to be doing this, repeating on each side the tab of where you're gluing it until you get all of your 8 pieces put down to make that long, long accordion fold. And again, just make sure you burnish your pieces nice and well, and just keep checking that you are gluing them correctly on the sides that it needs to be. Is my light glaring too much on you? Okay, let me just move that over. Sorry about that. Okay, and now again, we're going to be doing our next one. Again, back to the opposite. Lining up the die. Makes it perfect. And then a good, strong burnish. And a lot of times people don't burnish. They just, will use, a hard pressure with their finger. But I find that actually burnishing it with a paper folder, a bone folder, you're just really making sure that contact is there, especially when you're using that thicker type paper, because over time you don't want your pages to start uplifting because you didn't burnish it really well to get that adhesion with your glue. Now you can use a super strong double-sided tape to put these tabs on as well if you'd like. Again, I just prefer to use the liquid glue so I have that little bit of wiggle room when I'm putting my pieces together. So by all means, either use your glue or your double-sided tape, just so long that it's lined up and you burnish it well to make sure you get that really great connection. Like so. I've got some glue here on my table. Clean that off in a few. All right, so again, I just keep checking so I make sure that my pages are folding in and out the way I need them to go. So super quick and easy gatefold panel that we are creating. And again, you can do this with a heavy cardstock. I am using watercolor paper, and you can also do it with chipboard. Chipboard, you're really going to need to burnish depending on the thickness of your chipboard, because you want it to lay as flat as possible when it's going into that book. So if you're using too thick of a chipboard, you really just want to make sure you burnish your folds as flat as you can so it will lie flat inside. And this is my last one. Just burnishing that, and then opening it up on my last one and burnishing my tab. And also by burnishing, you're making your tab a little bit more flush as well, so that when you put your designer paper on top of it, hopefully you don't get a big old buckle with that. Okay, so those are all of our inside sheets. So it makes it, there's your book. So now you had gotten your double-sided paper as well. And this is a 6x6 sheet. And the reason why we designed our book the way we did is because your face here is now a 3x3. So all you need to do is cut your paper in half and then in half again, and you get perfect squares for your book. And again, they're double-sided, so you'll be able to make actually 2 books of this paper, because when you cut it in half, you'll have one sheet you don't need at all, and then the other half you're going to cut to make your 3x3. So you're going to end up with where's this one? Let me find the little cuts of it. So we had this, and where's the other piece of it? Well, you know, hopefully, okay. So here's your 6x6 sheet. When you initially get it, cut it in half. This long sheet you can put aside for using on a different project later on. And then you're going to take your other sheet and cut it in half that way. And now you have a front and back of coordinating paper for one of the pages. And those are what we're going to use. So I'm going to grab all of my little squares that I already cut. So they are perfect 3x3s. And then I still have these papers left over for when we do the cover and the binding on the cover for later. So now it's just, this is probably the most difficult part of the whole project, is figuring out which paper you want where to layer. So I usually just will grab, I'll put a front with the back of the 2 coordinating papers. Oh, sorry about that. Just so I can see which papers I like. And if I'm using the ones that are already coordinating, it kind of makes it a little bit easier for me to figure out color-wise what I want to put where when I get there. Now, when I cut this piece of paper is this one here. So when you cut it, you're going to have solid blues, but I really, really loved the flowers on it because it also matches this one here. So then I just cut it so I made sure that that would be one of my squares, because otherwise you just end up with the solid blue. But again, completely up to how you want to do it. And now I'm just going to play by layering my papers how I want it to be. I personally would like to have the hibiscus type flowers to be the first one you see when it opens. That's this one. So then I'm going to put the coordinating paper, that's the back side of it, next to it. Then I'm going to go towards, let's see, put some cute little of the banner flags. And then the coordinating piece that goes with that. And this is just how I'm going to continue to play so I can see which pieces I want to go where in my book. And it's completely up to you. You don't have to do, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's just what might look aesthetically pleasing to you. Okay, so then I know that's going to be my one side of my panel. And then I'll just get these pages prepped for when we flip it over. Okay, so now it's just a matter of gluing them in place. Now, the only thing you want to keep in mind when you're gluing them is your paper is going to be folding. So the thicker when you are gluing paper that folds, there are times that when you fold it, the score line is going to push your paper. So when you're doing one that has a fold, I always like to spot check it as I do it. And I'm going to show you what I mean when I get to that one. So I'm going to just go ahead and lay down my very first square. So I'm just going to glue up my back. Ooh, lovely. And then I'm just going to go ahead and place this on my first square. First square is always the easiest. But then I like to actually fold so I make sure that it's not going to push it off to the side. And if it does, it's not the end of the world. You just get a piece of your scissors and you just trim off the little excess. And then again, I like to burnish to make sure my paper is on there really well. Okay, so now we're going to do that second piece. And like what I was saying is here, you want to just make sure the fold part isn't going to push it over. So I just like to keep that in mind as I'm gluing, that I'm kind of staying clear of the actual fold part and lining my paper right up against the fold part, but not actually on the fold where it ends up pushing my paper. And I hope that makes sense. Because remember, you're going to be adding all of these layers and your book is now going to start getting a little bit thicker. And you just want to make sure that nothing is getting trapped for when you fold it. So just try to keep that in mind as we continue gluing all of your pieces, that you are gluing up next to the folds, not on the folds. And so that is why you'll see me kind of putting it in at a 90-degree angle, so I know I'm not catching that way. And see, I did have a little bit of a wiggle room here, and I did shift it. And then you can go ahead and burnish. Now the next one is a up, so you're gonna want to glue it on this side. But again, if any of your pieces do end up going a little bit over, just take a really fine scissor so that you can, no, let's get that on there. And you can just trim off any of the openings there. So this one kind of shifted when I pushed, so you can see I have a little bit of an overhang here. You can, where's my, there we go. So a little bit of an overhang there. I'll just go in there later at the very end and trim that off. That had nothing to do with my push that I'm trying to be so conscious about. It was actually on the top, but that happens. Next, we got this cute little watermelon paper. And most of these papers, there are no like top side direction that it needs to go, except for maybe one or two of them, and the watermelon's one of them, because the watermelon's not going in a random pattern. It is pretty much all just going straight down. So you're going to want to just play to your paper in that way as well. And we'll just go ahead now and breeze through getting the rest of all of our papers glued down for our inside of our book. And again, it was great because there really was no measuring of these little squares. It was literally just cut your 6.5 sheets in half and then in half again. You can see we're still doing well. This one feels a little tighter than I would have liked, so I probably went too close to my edge. So just going to reinforce it. And then we have these cute ones with the sunglasses. Again, just pushing it up to that fold part. And then our last piece here. Hold on, I got a dry glue bubble. Got a bubble of dried glue. Was it coming out? There we go. And then this one you just want to butt up against that last tab. And now you should be able to fold them, and you will feel where it feels like your fold is a little bit stiffer than on another one. And that's the ones you just want to make sure you go and brandish it a little bit harder if needed, because you might have gotten too close to that edge. So now we have our accordion fold on the one side. We're just going to repeat by flipping it over on our next side. So I'm just going to continue the process by now doing the other side. And these little mini books go really, really, really quickly if you have, coordinating paper, and you don't have to think too much of what paper you want to go where, because it all coordinates beautifully. And that is something that our paper packs are great for, which most people, if you're buying paper pads, they are going to coordinate. So you take out that big guessing game, as opposed to when you're buying pieces of paper, designer paper by the individual sheets, when you have to sort of figure it out with what's going to go with what. So I am a paper pad lover, and I just absolutely love having it already coordinated for me so that I don't have to think about it as much. Now, if you've never tried our paper before, you'll also notice our paper is a nice thick paper. We are going over those tabbed pieces. And if you were using a thinner paper, you would see that crease of it when you lay your paper on top, because it would have like a little bit of that bulge there. But our paper is a really nice thickness that you don't even end up seeing any of those little tab marks when you're layering on top of each other. And we are slowly adding more designs of our patterned paper paper pads. We have a handful now. Our latest one, we just came out with one for St. Patrick's Day, Luck of the Irish. If you love green as well. I always find it really hard to find St. Patrick's Day things where we live. So I was like, I just need to make a St. Patrick's Day paper pad. And then we also just came out with our Welcome Spring, which is a really great soft palette of pastels and plaids and cute little bunny rabbits. So if you wanted to make cute little memory books for your kids or your grandkids or whoever is in your life, and you wanted one to tuck away in their Easter baskets, maybe that would make an adorable little gift for them. But we also have Valentine paper. I mean, most of our paper pads are themed because, like I said, we are just starting out adding more and more. So we try to go with the bigger occasions first that we know people would want. But if it's a 6x6, just know you just have to cut it in half and in half again, and it's going to work marvelously on this little mini album. And when we designed our dies, that was one of the things that we tried to make sure happened in the design process. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I really hate when I have projects and it's like cut something at 1 5/8 or 1 13/16. And not all the time, you know, your rulers are going to have all of the little markings for 1/8 or 16ths. So that starts to prey on my nerves a little bit when I'm trying to measure things out. So when we designed the die, I was like, no, 3 inches. I want it nice and simple. Make it, people don't have to do math while they're crafting. Because I, for one, am not very good at math. And I have to use my little Amazon Alexa machine half the time when I'm crafting by asking her, this plus this is what? So I can figure it out. And I didn't want to have that happen when you're designing. I wanted it to be all engineered and done for you, just so that you can enjoy the craft part. Okay, so now we're at our flower piece, and I'm probably this way I like it the best. Okay, so we're almost down to the nitty-gritty. Almost with our ending pages here. And bone folders also come in different sizes and shapes. This is the one that comes in our toolkit. I am not really a big fan of the skinny one because I sell card bases, so I don't need them for scoring, you know, my paper to make the line, even though you can do that with this one if you needed to make a fold crease. But I know I needed something wider because I like to burnish my papers and my layers together. And those little ones that look more like a pen type width, they're just not wide enough to give me the pressure that I need when I am trying to burnish my paper down like this. So I personally like the wider one, and I like that it fits right into the palm of my hand, so it's not too long either. So keep all of those kind of things in mind when you're using your tools about the function it's also going to play for you. Okay, so now I have all of my pages done. Everything is burnished down nice. We still have this last tab because that is what's going to go inside our book, of the base part of our book. But we also need to decorate our panels of our book, the insides, that last one, and also your outsides. So to make this as simple as we can as well, now because your gatefold base is larger than what's holding your papers, you're going to have a border around these pieces. So even though we're still able to use our 3-inch squares, Whereas there's absolutely no border on your your inserty things, there is going to be a border on your base. And that is why I wanted it white, because if it was brown cardstock, you would see that white. So that's what I meant before when I was saying depending on my paper, and this one I wanted white to keep it light and airy. So now you still have your extra pieces here. And on my book, I did use the stripes for my front and my back. And then I used where did it? Oh, was it the back side of that one? It was. How did I do that? Okay, I must have used an extra sheet of paper on my demo one. Sorry about that. But anyways, I'm going to still use this to make my cover pieces. So I'm going to go ahead, and again, I'm just going to go and cut this in half to make my 3x3 squares. So get my little paper trimmer. And I'm just going to go ahead and now I have the 3-inch piece for the back. And now we also want the pieces for our front side panels. So I'm going to take this piece now and cut that also in half. So it was 3 inches. So now we're going to go down to 1.5. Like, wait, that doesn't look right. This ruler on this one I hate. So we're going to do it at 1. See, this is the 1. That's where it throws you off. You know, let me grab my other one really quick. That's what I'm talking about. The ones that have all those little freaking squares all the time, they just drive me insane with all the marks on them. I know it's helpful to have them, but when they have the one that has marks for every measurement, it kind of drives me a little insane. And then we'll have that piece there, but because that is our window area of our front door panel, and we want to have that border, because you have to remember, this is now a 3-inch square cut in 2 to make the gatefold. So by having a 1.5 sheet there, it'll end up being flushed on the one side to give you that border. And so you just want to keep that in mind while you're doing those pieces. Now we also need to cut our paper for our inside. So I'm just going to go and grab another patterned paper that I like for my inside, and I'm going to use that blue like in my demo there. And again, I'm going to cut the first piece to be the 3 inches because that is for that back panel. And then take that second square and cut it at the 1.5. Okay, I'm going to put my cutter aside for the moment. We're going to go ahead and start gluing these in. And then we're going to get into the little binder part, because that is where the math, I call it math, it's not really math, starts to change. But first we're going to go ahead, I am going to score and burnish on our fold lines, like so. Flipping it over to do the other side. And we are just now making the formation of the casing of our book for the outside. And I'm going to go ahead and lie it flat. And I'm going to take my piece for that center back, and then my 2 side pieces. So for my side piece, I know that I need to have it flush against the bottom cut opening, and then I just want equal distance on the top and the side. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some of my glue. And this is where I like the wiggle room because I need to fidget to make sure I have that equal top and bottom border piece. And again, I am just going to burnish it down, make sure it's equal on the edge, like so. And then we're going to repeat for the other side. Just make sure your stripes are all going the same way. You don't want it to be your sheet paper upside down, because then that would be the front of your book. You want it to look uniform, so you want to glue it down facing the stripes on the same way. That's if you chose to use striped paper. You had your paper that you could use any of the extra that you had. So you don't have to use the striped paper if you don't want to. Okay, now I have this one down, and I'm just going to burnish that like so. And now I have my last piece, and again, with the stripes going in the direction I need it to be, I'm going to go ahead and also glue this piece down. And I'm going to center it in the center, but also in the middle. And you just kind of want to eyeball it that all of your papers are at least lining up. Okay, so there is the outside of your book. We're going to come back and cut our bindery parts in a moment, because we're going to flip this over now, and we're going to just quickly do the same exact thing now on our insides. And again, you can use any of the papers that you want. They're all going to coordinate just beautifully together. So there's not a specific way you have to do the colors or the papers that I am doing. And again, I'm just going to line it up, center it as best as I can, and burnish. And then go ahead and do the other inside door panel as well. And the reason why you want that, again, just like when we did on our inside sheets, is because you want it to be clear of the scoring folds of your book. Because now this is going to be holding the thickness of your book. So you definitely want to make sure that you have clearance for your score lines on there. And now I'm just going to take my last bit of paper for that inside center square, like so. Again, and I'm trying to be halfway this way and halfway that way to get as much of an even border as I can. So now there's your insides and your outsides. Now for these binders, okay? So our binder part of our here is about 3/4 of an inch. That's how thick your book is going to be. So because I don't do well with math, like I said before, I don't know, like if you were to shave something off of 3/4. So what I normally do is I literally just cut 3/4 with my paper here, because I know it's going to be the right height because it's the 3-inch. I usually just cut a small slither shorter with my cutter than the 3/4, just so that I get clearance on those borders, because if it was the actual 3/4, it's going to be on the border, and over time it might start to fray and, you know, get a little bit of a lift on it. So I just always like to do it a little bit shorter than that. Now my favorite color is green and yellow, so I am going to try maybe, and then if we do the inside, let me see what we put on the inside. I just want to make sure. Oh, we still have the solid blue that you can also just do. Where are the bubbles? Okay, I'm going to use my little banners for my inside piece. So I know I'm going to use that paper. And then on my outside, I actually think I'm going to use the yellow. So these are the ones that I'm going to take. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go and cut them into a little bit less than a 3/4 inch mark. And again, that's just so that I know that I'll have the clearance for it. So depending on the paper trimmers that you're using, now let's see. I really hate the markings on this one for little pieces. So this is saying here, this is the 1 inch mark. So I would need to go, I'm thinking this must be the 3/4 inch mark. So I'm just going to go a little bit less than that. Just kind of eyeball it. And then let's see if that was the correct way to go. All right, there we go. So I made it my cut less than the 3/4. And as you can see, I'll have a little bit of that border part on there. So good to go. Go and cut your less than 3/4. You only need 2 for the front and 2 for the back. So again, just eyeballing it with my cutter. If you happen to have, I had the Fiskars one that has like those orange blades that you slide across. I actually prefer that cutter for when I'm doing smaller strips, because I feel like they have that little bit of an extension on that cutter. And it just, for some reason for me, works better than this Tonic Studios one. But you use the cutter you have. Just know for your little binder pieces, you need them to be slightly smaller than 3/4 of an inch for that clearance part. And then we have our snips right there. So now I'm just going to go ahead and adhere them into place on my little borders of the binder. And again, yours might look different if you decided to choose a different paper. Just going to lift this up so I can make sure that my tops and bottoms are pretty much aligned with the tops and bottoms of my polka dot paper. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. I want to just lay it down and then I will wiggle room it. Like so. And then I'm going to burnish it down. And now we have the cute inside of our book. And now we're just going to flip that over to repeat our 2 binder borders on our outside. And again, I just want to make sure all of my paper is aligned as best as possible, so that border, at least on the top and bottom edges, are as even as possible. So now some of the papers you'll see have, I don't want to say discoloration because it's not, but they were shaded on some of the edges. So like here you can see it had a darker coloring around the corners of the edge, and the yellow one had that as well. And since I'm consciously aware of that, I have the darker area on this side, so I'm going to make sure that the darker area matches on my other border. I mean, these books can be so much fun for a kid's birthday party. You can make funny ones for like a bachelorette party. Of course, you can do any holidays that you'd like. I mean, and you just need little cute 3x3 little snippets of photos or little journaling tags. And now we have our book outside and our book inside complete. So before we adhere it, we need to make our holes so that we can attach our button to it. So in your little kit, the Ziploc-y kit that you got, we're going to go ahead and open them. You'll have a coconut shell button. You're going to have a couple of different die cuts to color. Then you're going to have a piece of waxed string, and you're going to have a piece of elastic rainbow tape. And your color might be different because it was just a roll of rainbow elastic. So some people might have got a piece that's blue and green. Others might have gotten pieces that are pinks and yellows. It's just, that's how it happened. But so what we're going to do now is we're going to take that waxed thread, and we're going to need to make a hole for our button. So I am going to grab, if you have a needle, or if you have an awl, an AWL awl, that'll work as well. If you have a piercing tool for your dies, that will work as well. So whatever tools you happen to use is what you're going to want to grab. This is my awl and my piercing tool. Basically, it just has a super fine tip at the end to punch holes, or, you know, get your dies out of your paper off your dies. So we're just going to want to kind of eyeball where we want this button to be. And then you're just going to place your awl inside to make a bit of a hole so that then we can put our waxed thread through. So you don't want it super close to the edge. You want it in a little bit further because you want your elastic to be able to wrap around. And if it's too close to the edge, you're going to get a push as well on that part of the door that's going in. So I'm going to put it about, try to get it a little halfway this way and then a little less than halfway that way. And I'm just going to take, I should probably do it flat because I just need to make my first marking. So I'm going to put my awl, butterfingers today, put my awl in my hole, and then I'm going to slide it to hold it, and I'm going to very lightly start to push through. You can also do this with a safety pin, and you just want to make a clean hole. Once you have that first hole in, then it's pretty easy to figure out your second hole because you just have to line it up where that first hole was, and I always put my back inside it, and then I'm able to lift it up and move it over. And then I'm just going to wiggle it like I did before just to get it started. Sorry, this probably doesn't come off very clear on camera with the angles and the pushing, but I've done it with safety pins before. It's just to get that hole started. And it doesn't have to be a gigantic hole because you're going to be using wax thread, and wax thread goes in pretty easy as opposed to if you were using like a DMC type floss or something of that nature. So, and then I always like to go back on the back side as well to open up the hole there too. And now it's just a matter of stringing your waxed paper, your waxed thread through your hole to that other side, through your button, then down through that other side of your button. And then lastly, through that hole. Sometimes you have to, when it starts to fray, just kind of pinch it and it'll make the wax will get back in place. And now you have your button. And then I just make a square knot. So hopefully, if you're familiar with a square knot is you knot it your normal way first, and when you're putting the, okay, so I'll just explain as I'm going for a square knot because it holds better, especially with waxed threads. On cotton type threads, you don't necessarily have to do a square knot, but on a waxed thread, it's gonna hold your button in place. So when you're making a knot, and just a standard knot, you have it where it's going to go over and under to make your knot. And that's your first knot. Now a square knot is you're doing the same thing again, but this time it goes over and under on the opposite side. And that is how you make a square knot. And it's not going to move. It's not going to loosen up over time because you made the square knot. Okay? Just keep in mind when you're tying it, not to tie it super, super tight because you still need your elastic to be able to go underneath your button. So you want it to be the knot tight, but you don't necessarily want the waxed part on your button super tight. And once you've made your square knot, you can go ahead and cut that thread. Most people don't do square knots and they just might do a double knot or a triple knot thinking that's going to hold. But over time, depending on the threads that you're going to use, it can loosen up. And that's why doing a square knot is you're doing it backwards from one another and it just holds the knot a lot longer. So there is your button. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab our inside stack. We still have this one tab, and that one tab is what's going to get glued to the back panel of your base. So I just basically line it up to that square we've already had. You can also glue this in first and then put your square on top of it to hide the tab if you want it as well. So we're just going to take our tab, and I'm going to open this up just so I can see better. And I'm literally just going on the edge to the edge of that, pushing it down, and then I will grab my bone folder. And now that I can lay it flat, I'll burnish it in. And now I can fold my book up and inside. And there we have the makings of our book. We're going to go ahead and put this aside for now. And we're going to quickly, and I do mean quickly, all of you guys know I am a colorist, so I normally color the chibi kids with their hair. And I just lost the pin for my glue, so it'll probably dry out, but we'll just put it aside for now. We are not going to do fancy coloring with these guys. We're just going to do nice, simple colorings. You don't even have to use the same color markers that I'm using. You can do whatever you have. You can do it with colored pencils. You can do it with your kids' markers if you don't have Copics, because we're just going to color these all very simply. So the first one we'll start with is going to be our watermelon. So I just need a green. So I'm just going to go grab, I will tell you my Copic markers just in case you want to. But again, I'm just doing simple coloring. So I'm taking my 𝐒𝐿9. I should probably put a piece of paper underneath. Taking my 𝐒𝐿9 and I'm literally just going to color the rind of my watermelon. And then for my watermelon, now watermelon's not always red. It's got a little bit, sometimes you get darker red with the pinkier red. So I'm going to use two colors here. I'm going to use R35, and I'm just randomly picking colors. I don't even know how they're going to look, but this is how I color sometimes. So I'm going to take my R35, and I'm going to go on the bottom and along some of the side of the top. Whoops. Like so. And then I'm going to take my R, let's try 32, and blend those together. Like so. Oop, they're so small. Sorry. There we go. And I'm not even going to bother with the white of my watermelon. Simple, simple coloring day today. Now let's go ahead with our bucket of sand. So for my sand, I'm going to take some 𝐸35 and 𝐸31. And I'm just going to lay down my 𝐸35 and then top it off with my lighter 𝐸31 just to get a little bit of a variation of the sand, nothing fancy. And let's make our bucket a pretty yellow. So I'm just going to grab, what is this? I don't even know, 𝐲17. And I'm just going to go down half the side with my 𝐲17. Again, this is not a coloring demo today. I usually do them, but today's not the day, folks. So just simply color along with me. Let's see, 𝐲13 to then soften up our yellow and to blend it out. And there's our little bucket. And let's give our oh, you know what I didn't hit? I didn't hit the rim of, there we go. And now let's give ourselves a cute little purple handle. Oh, purple, purple, purple. So I'm just going to grab VO4. And I'm just choosing random colors, honestly, but bright colors because the pages in our books are bright. And now for our shovel, let's do him in an orange. So let's grab 𝐲R16. And we'll go up the side here, 𝐲R16, and then let's grab our 𝐲R, where is it? That's all right, we'll grab 𝐲R14. And then we just have a little orange shovel. Again, nothing fancy. Now for our seashells, we want to do our sand dollar to read white. So we're going to use our B00 and our B01. So I'm taking my B01, and I'm just going to go around a little bit on that top edge, and then with my B00, fan it out a little bit, like so. And then I'm going to take a colorless blender and push on the edges. It helps soften it up. so it'll read white when we're done. Then we have the cone shell in the front, so I'm going to take, let's try 𝐒35. And I'm just going to go down the bottom with my 𝐒35. And then let's see, where is our E? Where is it? 𝐒31, there it is. And we're just gonna soften it a little bit by continuing to go up. And then I'm gonna grab my 𝐒53 and blend it all together, like so. Then we have the starfish in the background. So let's make a pretty orange starfish. So that 𝐦R16 down in the bottom. And then I'm going to grab 𝐦R61, which is a little bit peachy, like so. And then I'm going to grab 𝐦R30 just to, oh, that marker's dry. 𝐦R21 then instead to get a little bit of the yellow back in there. And there is our starfish. And now for our larger shell, I'm going to go in with 𝐒97. And again, not a coloring demo, just a quick thing. So I'm randomly picking colors. I don't even know if they're going to work when I'm doing it. But, you know, it happens. You take a chance every now and again. So that was my 𝐒97. Now let me grab my, let's see. I'll take 𝐒84, which has a little bit of a browner cast to it. The other one had more of a reddish cast to it. So that's 𝐒84. And now we're going to go back into a lighter color. So let's try 𝐒70 because it has a little bit of a rosy color to it. And I'm actually going to go over the other two colors with this to start blending it together. That's 𝐒70. And then I'm just going to finish it all up with our 𝐒21. Like so. Now for our final piece is our cute little sun. So let's start with some of his rays in the background. So we're going to go in with our, let's see, 𝐦R18. I'm going to use this very sparingly, but on those back point ones, the ones that are kind of behind the fronts, because those would be the ones hitting with the shadow the most. Even though, again, I'm not trying to go crazy with the coloring. I'm trying to keep it very, very simple. These are not the main focal point of your album. They're just the little accents. So that was 𝐦R18. Then I'm going to go in with 𝐦R14 to kind of smooth that out. If you're ever interested in learning more in-depth type coloring, we do have our Stamp Anything Stampers group where we have live demos all the time. If you've ever seen the ones that we've done here with the Expo at Home events, it's that sort of format where we, but it's not just me that's coloring. Usually in these expos, it's just you with me. But in our group, we have an amazing design team, and we all color differently. We all have different techniques. So you don't necessarily learn the same way from the same people. So sometimes you need a different instructor that's going to be able to help you learn in a different way. So we do have different instructors over there. So YR16 for my next level of the rays here. Oops. And we'll start bringing in more of the yellow in a moment. And we're going to do that with our YR23. And this will start bringing in some more of that golden of the YR color, so that when we do the sun part, these will pop out a little bit better, reflecting from the yellow that we use in the actual sun. So we're just coloring in the remainder of these rays. Then I'm going to still use the same marker, the YR23, to add in a little bit down the sides here of my face. So it helps to tie it in with my rays. And now I'm going to go grab Y19 and start blending that out. Like so. Now you can see, if you're coloring and happen to be using these colors, now those colors on the outside start magically reading a little bit more golden. And then I'm taking Y15 and I'm just gonna finish up the rest of my sun in coloring him out like so. Okay, this one's away. And I'm just gonna grab the fluorescent, what is it? FRV1, and I'm just gonna make his cheeks. Some people we have our fluorescent markers, but we don't always seem to use them as much as we should. And then let me see, I think maybe, what color sunglasses should he have? Let's make him have some red sunglasses. So I'm just gonna grab my R35 and I'm just gonna color it in completely on and around the rim of my sunglass in R35. Like so. And then I'm going to grab R59 just to put a little bit of darkness around the sides there. And then just take that R39 again and just blend out that darker part like so. And now in for the glasses, we're just going to grab, let's see, that B1, and I'm going to do it on an angle like so, leave a white spot, and then do the other side and repeat that on the other glass. It gives that little bit of that he's got like that shine coming through. And then I'm just going to take that little bit of the colorless blender, just going over it because it'll soften those areas that we just added. You can also, if you wanted to, you could have just colored the whole thing in blue and then take a white gel pen and put it there. So there's our pieces, and some of them, you know, it's got the border on them. You can trim them up if you wanted to. I'll just show you a really quick trick, and I'm going to use the triangle one because it's the easiest. If you were to fussy cut on the actual lines, then all you want to do is you want to take either your black marker or one of your darker toner markers, just a dark marker, and you color in the sides of your paper. This helps and covers up a lot of the flaws with your fuzzy cutting. So if you wanted to do it because you don't like the borders for some reasons, I am not like, on the sun, I don't like that there's so much white showing, but there's no way I'm fussy cutting that. So that's why I just kept mine pretty simple. But if you wanted to, you can fussy cut it, and this is how you fix a lot of the corrections, because I am not good at fussy cutting. I always end up cutting off into my image. So by doing that with the black, it actually will help camouflage if you cut off too much. Okay, so now we're back to decorating our insides of our book. So now it's just you randomly picking a page of where you want something to go. So my watermelon, obviously on my watermelon page, is going to get lost, but I can put it on my solid red or I can put it on my green. I personally think it pops more on my red. So I am just going to glue it down where I want it to be. And I'm just going to put it randomly on the page. And then you can, now obviously if I was making an album at this point, I probably wouldn't glue them down first, because if I was going to say put a picture on something and then doing a journal, you know, square or something, I would probably first block that in and then use this as an accent piece on top of whatever I was journaling or putting on a photo if that's what I was doing. So I'm just randomly putting these on so you guys can see places that they can go, but you put them where you need. And you know what I just realized I did? Uh-oh, I glued mine in upside down because my watermelon's the wrong way. So now I have to make my book go this way. And now my button is going to be on the opposite side of my book. So make sure you didn't do like me on there either. See, every video there's an Annie oops. So that was our big one for today. I was not paying attention on my page placement. It's not the end of the world, to be honest with you, that your button ends up being on this side or whatever. But now my book is opening this way instead of the way I would have wanted it to be with the button, but that's okay. So now I'm going to just go and randomly put, let's see, we're going to put our little beach stuff. Oh, you know what? I'm going to put it on the water page because I think that would be kind of cute. But again, if I was actually putting this together as an album, I would have added all of my other elements first before putting on my little die cuts. So keep that in mind as well when you are doing your pieces. And then let's just put our shells. Just put our shells down here. Like so. And my sun is going on my cover, so I will put that in a moment. So before we put our sun on, we need to make the closure of our book. And our book is going to wrap around and loop back to each other. So what I do for that is, because I don't know how short or how long I need my string to be, I like to fold it in half and actually loop the half mark onto my button, like so. Then I can go ahead and wrap around to know how much of a tug I'm gonna need for my elastic to reach. And I pretty much now know I have to tie my knot as close to the edge as I can get on my string. So I am just going to do a quick knot, but I am going to move it as far to the edge as I can. Well, that didn't work. Hold on. Let me do that again. A piece slipped in there. All right, take two. Grab my ends, and now I'm gonna go ahead and loop. Oops, I need you, Mr. Green Piece. There we go. Grab that, and now I'm gonna shift my knot by keeping it as loose as I can until I get further and further down towards my end, like so. So I got pretty close to the edge there. And now I can cut off my little extra bits. And now I know I can go ahead and easily wrap my elastic around. And then I'm just going to bring that squared knot part towards the back. And now I have the closure of my book. Your book, if you didn't mess up like mine, is going to have your button on this side. And then all you're going to need to do is now find where you want to put your little sun and glue him down. And on my example of my first one, I just put him in the top corner. So you can just follow through, glue him wherever you want. I now have to glue him on my other side. So I'm going to probably glue him right there. You could also foam dot it if you'd like to. You don't have to glue him. Now my glue is drying up because I lost my pin. And just make sure it doesn't get in the way of your lap there. And there we have our cute little 3x3. It's a tiny one, but it's so cute. 3x3 little mini album. Again, you can use so many different papers for different occasions. Make birthday ones, holiday ones. Another thing you can do, what would be really, really cute, depending on your family life and what you do too, you can even make them cute little affirmation books as opposed to a mini album with photos that, you can print off. Oh, this way. Now mine opens this way. I forgot. You can print out words of encouragement and make little tags there with different quotes. Whatever you want. You can also add another layer of paper with your square. Cut another piece out, and then you can double side tape the side, the bottom, and the other side. And now you have pockets. So there's so many different ways that you can add on and dress up these little books. I just love it because it is truly a mini album with it only being 3 inches by 3 inches. So I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation today. And I hope you love your little book, and I hope you love the new die, and that you will get many, many, many uses out of it. So have a great day. Keep on crafting, and if you make a mini album, I would love for you to post it either to our main page and tag us in it at Stamp Anything, or if you have not already joined our fan group, Stamp Anything Stampers, we love seeing you guys' projects. So go ahead and tag us in that too. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you and see you another time. Bye.